Wherever you are on the journey as a married couple, there are times and tensions that the longer you're married, you can reflect back on, and by the grace of God, you've gotten through. How good it is to be able to speak with a couple who have been together for almost 4 decades of marriage, built a marvelous church in Charlotte, North Carolina in the process, and as well has had an influence and has influence through their local church with thousands of people, and through radio, millions of people. I'm talking about a great couple. I'm talking about David and Marilyn Chadwick. Welcome back to 100 Huntley Street. David.
Thanks, John.
Marilyn,
it's great to be back.
First time here.
Yeah.
Delighted to have you here. Let me just quickly tell you why they're here. They've written companion books, and you see it on the screen there. It's called 8 Great Ways to Honor Your Husband by Marilyn, and 8 Great Ways to Honor Your Wife by David. And we hope you sell a gazillion of these because they're greatly needed. It's great to have you here. You guys met on a blind date?
Yeah, the joke is Marilyn was blind, and so she wouldn't have gone out with me otherwise. But I was
a really blind date. We didn't even know the person that set it up.
So you didn't know the person that set it up? So it was a blind date.
You kind of did, but you didn't like him.
Well, I really did. I was leading a college ministry at a local church when I was in seminary, and this guy kept bugging me that there's this girl he wanted me to meet.
Yeah.
But all I had was her name, Marilyn. She went to Tucker High School in the University of Georgia, and he kept bugging me, and I was at an age and stage of life where I did not want a blind date.
Right.
But he kept pushing me. So finally, there was a girl in the college age group named Donna, and she went to Tucker High School. So I called her and said, Donna, do you know a girl named Marilyn went to Tucker High School in the University of Georgia? And she said, well, the only one I can think of is Marilyn Brame. And I said, well, do me a favor, the great, courageous guy that I am. Would you call her and see if it's Marilyn Brame? And so Donna called Marilyn and called me back and said, yeah, it's Marilyn Brame. And I said, well, should I call her and go on a blind date with her? And she said, well, all I can tell you is if you go on the date, you should be ready to fall in love. So I called her. 3 months later, we're engaged. I broke every rule I tell young couples when they're dating, give it the test of time. 3 months later, we're engaged. 9 months later, we're married. 38 years later, we couldn't be happier.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's our story in a nutshell. Did I miss everything?
I think it worked, right?
So Marilyn, this guy's working hard. He was working hard, investigating and checking it out, and man.
Yeah, he was. And I didn't want to go. And see, the funny thing is, the guy that set us up, I didn't like him. He was just visiting my roommate. I was moving into my apartment for the first time, working uptown in Atlanta. And I was not so impressed with the guy. And I met him, I talked to him for about 10 minutes, that was all. And then he went back and told you he had this great friend. But the story that he told me that really was not, I don't know how I misinterpreted it, but I'd heard he was a pro baseball player. And so I'm thinking, okay, it's a baseball player. What he didn't know and what the guy didn't know is I was a very new Christian. I had sworn in college I was never going to be a Christian, but the Lord found me. And then that I would never, ever marry a minister. So then after, I answered the phone call, then I realized he was in seminary studying to be a minister. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So
you thought this was a baseball player, and he's actually in ministry.
Yeah, he's a minister. Yeah. So we talked on the phone that first time, and as we talked, what, 45 minutes? Yeah. And I really liked him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh dear, this could be bad. And we made a blind date to go rafting down the Chattahoochee River. Who does that on a blind date?
Yeah.
Think about how long, you know how long that takes.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
So I thought, if I don't like him, how am I going to get out of the...
We're stuck.
Yeah, we're stuck. But we liked each other a lot, and we really decided quickly.
Yeah, the rafting turned into a dinner date,
we
and then we stayed up until like midnight talking. And like I said, we just spent so much time together the next 3 months, we just knew that we knew.
But the guy told us, this is what's so funny, the guy was really kind of interesting, and he said our auras matched. He said we each had greenish gold auras. I don't think he was a Christian, but he just was determined.
We're still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, hey, maybe you want to do a book on that,
maybe
David.
our auras.
God uses all things together for good.
All things work together.
Means all things.
Maybe our auras do match.
There is the completeness of Romans 8:28, is there not? All right, so all these years of marriage also have been mirrored by not just all these years of ministry, but you guys went to Charlotte not too long after you got married, and you took a church there, but physically you planted there your lives, and you've been there ever since.
Yeah, we never.
So I know today the work, 5 campuses, thousands of people coming. I mean, God's just blessed and blessed. It's wonderful to see, but it wasn't always that way, was it?
No, it was a small church and located in a changing area of Charlotte. We were told by the officials, whoever they are, that we shouldn't go. Probably wasn't going to be a very successful church. And we just went and loved the people, preached the gospel, tried to teach people God's word. First several years, much growth did not happen. We became frustrated at times, wondered if we'd made the right decision, as you understand,
It was
John.
lonely because we didn't have any young couples
Yeah,
around us.
there was one baby in the nursery on a good weekend, and we just kept preaching. And the few couples who started to come, we planted a vision for what we could become, and slowly but surely they started to join the church, and the church began to grow.
And you grew, and we've not been a meteoric rise. I mean, it's been a couple of hundred every year for 35 years. We're just kind of slow and steady. I guess we're slow and steady. Are we boring?
I don't know. We may be.
And Charlotte turned into a major league town.
It attracted a lot of people.
It became the hub between D.C. and Atlanta.
It did.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
So let's look at now. We fast forward. You have adult kids, grandkids. You didn't write this book in your rookie years. You're now veterans of marriage, and you've written these books, I should say, plural. You've written these books after years of experience, which I really love. I'll confess to you, I'm always nervous about younger guys and ladies writing books on parenting when they still have kids in formation. I just struggle with that. Maybe it's my problem. Doesn't mean they don't have good ideas. But I was always shy as a young guy when I had small kids of trying to tell everybody how to be a great, godly parent. Yeah. I love the fact now, as seasoned veterans, kids are grown, grandkids, new grandchild on the way, I understand, as we're here together today, that you now, I just feel like you're in a place where you have something to say. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Does that resonate with you as to maybe why you waited this time to write it? Is that part of this?
Well, the publisher was the one who came up with the idea and offered us this possibility. I think the publisher wanted something that could speak to marriage, but from a veteran's perspective.
Yeah.
And we were able to look back over our 38 years and draw upon our experiences. We've not had a perfect marriage. We've had to struggle through some issues, but we locked the door from the outside on day one. Can't get out of this thing. So how do we live together in this marriage as two complementary pieces who really do want to learn how to honor one another?
Well, where did that word when did you start using that word honor? When did you think honor was one thing before you started writing the book, and was it something else after you started digging into it?
I don't think we wanted us.
Yeah,
he picked out the topic.
I don't think we knew the whole definition.
And then as we began studying it, we were realizing how strong the word is, not just from a secular standpoint, but biblically. And then it gave us a really nice opportunity to look at our life in reverse, look in the rearview mirror for all these 38 years. And we began to say, gosh, we did some things right. And as we learned about honor, we were like, oh, we did that, and that probably was honor. And we knew we did some things wrong too, but it gave me a chance, I think, to focus on some of the milestones and things that I could actually translate into practical tips. And it's kind of fun to think that you did some things right, don't you think?
I do think so. And in the marriage, we learned some practical suggestions that can make the marriage better.
And they're simple, and anybody can do them.
Anybody can do them. And we were so honored to be able to write the book, no pun intended.
Yeah.
The publisher, as I have been listening and gathering from our previous off-air conversations, would not allow you to. They wanted you to write companion books, but they wouldn't really. Well, they didn't want you to compare notes. They wanted you to develop your own 8 great ways.
Yeah.
So, was there that time? Was that aha meeting when you both brought your manuscripts or your outlines and said, "Okay"? What was that like when you started comparing notes?
Well, we had the same editor, and so he kind of coached us all the way through. And if one of us either, contradicted the other or was too redundant, he would say, let's reframe this. But he made sure we were kind of on the same page. And then when we brought them together, it was just fun that we had so many things in common. We were surprised.
There was an
aha moment.
Said, oh my, we've shared a lot of the same kind of
thoughts. We both
thoughts.
talked about our day off. We both talked about being strong for the other, just things that you wouldn't think.
How we should both find our strength in the Lord and not in each other, because when we do, we drink each other dry, and that's not healthy for
And that's that Slurpee. Tell them the Slurpee illustration.
Yeah, we believe that one of the problems in marriage today is Slurpee marriages. You try to drink the other person dry for your life's meaning, and another person can't meet the deepest longings of your heart. Only the Lord can. can.
Well,
That's
and
so
on the
true.
other side of that, the other extreme would be people trying to get their needs met totally outside the marriage, and two independent people that don't talk as a we, but as a me and a me, and that's not good. So I think we're real balanced. I think David and I are very balanced people, don't you?
I do, and the whole purpose of marriage, John, is Genesis 2:24, for two people to become one. That's the goal. Jesus quoted that in Matthew 19. Paul quotes it in Ephesians 5. So it must be central to the whole understanding of marriage. So what God wants is two lives that are mysteriously, inextricably connected with one another. And Marilyn and I have just learned 8 principles that will help that happen.
I love the fact too that the two of you as veterans write about your life experiences and can be, if I can use language of the culture, gurus. For a millennial generation, oftentimes even born-again Christian kids growing up not understanding the importance of that marital covenant. Why do we need to wait before marriage to be intimate with each other? And I love the fact that you've come alongside and said, that's another way to honor your bride-to-be, your husband-to-be.
Yeah,
by being
the word
pure.
honor is another way to cement that union life between a husband and a wife. And when you really understand the meaning of valuing, treasuring, honoring, esteeming, looking at somebody as even better than yourself, it only makes your relationship closer and more meaningful.
Now,
The biblical words. I mean, we've found all kinds of ways of looking at honor from a secular point of view, but man, the biblical view is so high. It's no wonder God puts the training wheels down here for the kids and says, honor your mother and father. And you learn that, and then you learn to honor God.
The only commandment with a promise.
The only commandment with a promise that it'll go well with you and you'll live long in the land. So we just feel like God must want honor to be at the core.
all right, so as we draw this to a close, is there going to be, if I come to Forest Hill or I watch live streaming or podcast, will there be a time in your church when the two of you will sit down on stools and talk to the congregation and process this? Will be part of your teaching ministry?
John, it's already happened.
It's already
this
happened?
Past February 2016, we spent 4 weeks, Marilyn and me on stage,
go.
2 stools, unpacking 2 per week apiece. And when we taught that, the whole congregation was greatly and enormously blessed.
I just can only imagine that was kind of what I was seeing here, just how encouraged people would see, because you offer transparency and openness and yet great, valuable experiences.
And practical application. People just wanted to ask the question today, how does it work? Show me how it works.
Give me
And we've
some
tried to do
tips,
that in the books.
Well, we hope that you'll come back and share with us more in the future. We love having you here. It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Go Dogs.
Good old, I was going to say, go Dogs.
Go Tar
Doesn't get any
Heels.
better
How about
than
that, John?
And
I had to change loyalties.
Folks across Canada could absolutely care less.
I bet.